Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our May 10th, 2017 City Council meeting. I will call this meeting to order, and we start with a moment of reflection. Dick Halls? Okay, there we go.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, it's a privilege tonight on behalf of the community to offer a prayer. Let us pray. Our Lord, we give thanks tonight for this City Council and for our community, for all the things that we enjoy and many times take for granted. But we are aware of so many who service, police department, fire department, community activities, which enrich our lives. Tonight, we bring before you those who are newly appointed to offices, city manager, fire department chief, as well as the city treasurer and others. We ask you to bless them and give them encouragement, as well as for the city council and our appreciation for all that they do and are dedicated to perform. Bless them in our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I would like to ask Councilmember Diaz to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. Roll call indicates that all council members are present. We have some proclamations to do. First, I would like to invite Hugo Villalobos and Anthony Gonzalez from HARF to receive the Public Works Week proclamation.
Okay, Public Works, National Public Works Week. So this is the Public Works Connect Us. Public Works services provided in our community are an integral part of our daily lives. The support of an understanding and of informed citizens is vital to the efficient operation of public works system and programs such as water, sewer, streets, highways, public buildings, solid waste collection. The health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. The quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of our public works officials. The efficiency of our dedicated staff, public works department, and the public works department, influenced by the people operating and understanding of the importance of the work they perform every day. Therefore, on behalf of the city, hereby proclaim May 21st to 27, 2017 as National Public Works Week. So we thank you and we recognize the contribution of the public works officials and employees they do every day in our community. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you. Who is the designated public speaker? Anybody would like to say a few words? Okay. Yes.
It's a pleasure to work for the city of Escondido and really enjoy doing what we do. And you have anything?
Thank you.
You guys do the hard work, so thank you, I appreciate it, and congratulations. Okay. Oh, that was the, okay, sorry about that. All right, now we do have, thank you very much. Okay, now we have the National Historic Preservation Month, and we have Michelle Peralta from the Historic Preservation to receive this. Michelle? Yes, everybody. Okay, bring the crowd. Thank you very much. Victor, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, it's the National Historic Preservation Month 2017. The historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character and livability. Historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages and ethnic backgrounds. It is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contribution made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped our community. The Old Escondido Historic District was established in December 1991, a long time ago. And with the support of the residents, and now celebrate 25 years of dedication to preserving the city's heritage. The Old Escondido Neighborhood Group is proud to present the 20th annual Mother's Day Home Tour in our historic district. Whereas May is a traditionally considered National Preservation Month, and the Escondido Historic Preservation Commission, the Escondido History Center, and the Escondido Library Pioneer Room all desire to support its observance and recognize the 25th anniversary of the Old Escondido Historic District, as well as celebrate 20 years of historic home tours. Therefore, on behalf of the city, we proclaim May 27th as National Historic Preservation Month, and congratulations. There we go. Okay. Yes, we can applaud. Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. The Escondido Public Library's Pioneer Room is the city's primary research center. The goal of the Pioneer Room is to collect and preserve photographs, community biographies, and other historic memorabilia and documents so our current and future generations can experience the rich history of the city. We welcome you to come on by the library in the Pioneer Room, and we'll show you the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, Travis, now you have the presentation, right? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. Today, the Old Escondido Historic District is a vibrant, desirable neighborhood known for its historic homes, located in the heart of Escondido between 5th and 13th Avenues and Escondido Boulevard and Chestnut Street. But 30 years ago, the area was in serious decline. Considered one of the worst neighborhoods in the city, its future seemed bleak. Thanks to a small group of dedicated neighbors, however, that would change. Leading the movement was Margaret Moyer. Her attractive historic home was the site of an ice cream social that would start turning the neighborhood around. It's appropriate that the Moyer's home will be on the home tour once again in celebration this year. With encouragement from City Council member Doris Thurston, Old Escondido became the city's first official neighborhood group in 1988. That designation led to grants that paid for neighborhood beautification programs, including Old Escondido signs, paint materials for a one-block improvement project, and pedestrian lighting on one block of 10th Avenue. Just about the same time, another group, this one from the Escondido Historical Society, saw the need to protect the homes and character of the neighborhood as the historical assets that they are. Lucy Burke was a part of that group, participating in historic surveys of the area and diligently documenting local history for many years since. Multiple attempts to have the area designated as a historic district failed, but a final try succeeded in 1991-92 when the City Council passed the ordinance creating the Old Escondido Neighborhood Historic District. Many homes in Old Escondido are on the local register, and 5 are on the National Register of Historic Places. The first Mother's Day home tour was held in 1997. Many neighbors volunteered every year, and dozens of homes have been featured. From 2005 until 2014, Doug Eagleson became very involved. He initiated many improvements to the refreshment area, like table linens and floral arrangements. Doug was the one who knocked on doors to invite neighbors to open their homes for the tour. but he would also be the one squeezing hundreds of lemons the night before and tending to dozens of details. The attendance now ranges from 700 to 900, bringing vital funds to the neighborhood for a website, annual newsletter, a barbecue, a walking tour app, and more. As a result of Margaret's, Lucy's, and Doug's efforts, and those of many neighbors and the city and other volunteers, the old Escondido neighborhood has become something very special for homeowners, our community, and even those who travel from afar to see it. One by one, the homes have continued to improve over the years. Now we ask that Margaret, Doug, and Lucy join us so that we can present them with their awards in gratitude for their efforts.
And the doctor.
First Margaret, and then Doug, and then
It was excellent.
Doug,
Well, I know.
yeah,
Well,
not the doctor.
Well, Carol, thank you for your leadership. You have been a driving force behind these historic things. You have served on our different commission, the Historic Commission, and you have really been a part of our success as a city. We thank you. We recognize you every day. We don't have to do an official proclamation, but we thank you very much for what you do. Well, you know, Margaret, Doug, and Lucy, they have one thing in common. They care about the city, and they love Escondido, and they want to preserve its history. I know that. I've been here for 30 years, and I know how much they care and how much they love the city. So let me start with Margaret. On behalf of the City Council, the Historic Preservation Commission, and the community of Escondido, and in honor of the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Old Escondido Historic District, I extend our appreciation with this certificate and recognition of Margaret Moyer, and I added Dr. Moyer here because it's not in the script. He has done a lot as well. So for your ability to see a problem in the neighborhood 30 years ago and to decide on an action to resolve it and recognize the old Escondido neighborhood group in order to preserve, promote, and protect the city's oldest neighborhood and lead the way to its designation as Escondido's first historic district. We thank you very much, Margaret, and you have a beautiful home. I think many of us have been to their beautiful house. I think the whole city is proud of what you did. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Doug and I love living here. We've lived in our house for 32 years, and 26 years ago, the city was talking about tearing down the whole neighborhood and redeveloping it. So we're very proud that we still have an historic residential core for Old Escondido. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the City Council, the Historic Preservation Commission, and the community of Escondido, and in honor of the 20th Annual Mother's Day Home Tour, I, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Escondido, I extend our appreciation with this certificate in recognition of Doug Eagleson, who consistently dedicated his time and effort over the years with Old Escondido Neighborhood Group to create memorable home tours every Mother's Day, substantially enhancing a tradition that showcases the beauty and success of our historic preservation throughout the neighborhood. Congratulations and thank you.
I might add that Doug makes the best beef stew I've ever had.
There we go.
I don't have much to say, but it's just a real labor of love. And I want you all to come on the Mother's Day home tour on Sunday. Tickets are still available. Thank you.
And last but not least, Lucy Burke. What can I say about Lucy? I was a council member, I was a citizen here, I had a property, I had to go before the design review board and so many commissions, and every time she raised the bar because she wants the best for Escondido. So Lucy, on behalf of the City Council, the Historic Preservation Commission, and the community of Escondido, in honor of the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Old Escondido History District, I extend our appreciation with the certificate in recognition of Lucy Burke's foresight and tireless preservation to create the first historic district in Escondido, which celebrates our community's history and protects the physical character of the city's heritage for generations to come. Lucy, thank you for your many, many, many contributions to our city.
Thank you very much, Mayor Abbott, and all of you who are in the city working for the behalf of the preservation world that we have developed. It's really strange to be the last man standing. Harriet Church is with me. Janine Young is with me. I knew I'd do this. And Emily Wilt is in Belize, so she couldn't be here. But we started this so long ago that we were pitching our story to the council in the Adobe City Hall.
Wow.
Talk about historic.
Yeah, that's good. That's gone.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud of what the city has allowed us to do.
Thank you very much.
The city to save that building, but it's impossible to save the building. I mean, you can't move it. It was pretty cool. I would just like to say for Public Works Week, when I was in Baltimore, they have a museum for Public Works. I mean, you've never seen so many old valves and pipes and all kinds of stuff related to Public Works. They have a special building. It's the museum right in the Inner Harbor.
Okay, we go to oral communications. I have two requests. First, Wayne Louth. Welcome back. We haven't seen you in a while.
You grew a beard.
Mayor Abed and the City Council. I'm here today to speak on an item from the consent calendar that last week was held and discussed.
Is it on today's consent calendar? Last week consent calendar, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
That item was about allowing certain mobile home residents on rent control that can't attend the City Council meeting, allowing them to send in written so-called affidavits to voice their concern. The subject, as well as other good ideas, has been brought up many times over the decades and basically thrown out the door by the council. Proposition K, if I may, a brief history. In the late 1970s, it was realized that mobile home owners, residents, that owned their home but rented on private land were being individually gouged by uncontrolled rent increases. The answer, so it was thought, came in 1988 in the form of Proposition K, brought on by a citywide vote, and thus became the law for mobile home residents, called rent control. Now, you all should know that although that sounded well, the implication was that the rent could be controlled. And you should also understand that it took a long battle to get that law written. The battle was mostly coming from the landowners who felt threatened that they had no longer any control on their gouging tactics. Proposition K became a rule of law in which the mobile home residents will lose on the short end or lose on the long end. The residents must accept the small gouge or we will gouge you in the long run. But that wasn't good enough for the landowners, and they found a loophole. Whereas, when the resident mobile home became vacant, the City Council had no control on their rent increase. And in 1998, vacancy decontrol was born. where the rent on spaces on said could almost double almost overnight. The mobile home resident loses again. Now, coming back to last week, when this subject came up, the majority of the council seemed more concerned about alerting the park owners of this subject rather than park residents, showing me the true value of where your interests lie, and has been proved over the past 3 decades. It is not with the mobile home resident.
Wayne, you need to sum up.
Let me remind you that Proposition K was a city vote, citywide, for this law. Here is my question. Now, I'm not an attorney, but can a mere 5 people change or manipulate a law voted on by tens of thousands?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Wayne. I gave you a little bit more time. Thank you. We got the message.
I have 2 subjects. If you look on the thing, may I speak totally
No,
disconnected?
you have only 3 minutes to speak, and
On a different subject.
on a different. Yes, you have 3 minutes only. I may give you another opportunity at the end of the council meeting, but not now. So I need to go to the next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim McAllister. Well, sorry about that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to speak about rent control, but not for mobile homes,
Right.
for our apartments. I live in a senior complex. I'm one of the younger residents, but I've lived in 2 now. And rents in senior complexes are getting a little ridiculous. And I'm having to see my neighbors move out because they cannot afford the 6, 10, 15% rent increases on their apartments. Their Social Security checks are not going up by those amounts. Their investments are not going up by those amounts. We need to look at, as a city council, of controlling those rents and those rent increases. A lot of complexes have been bought by large corporations, and they're just coming in and gouging, and all they're looking at is their money that they can make out. I'm a landlord. I own properties all over the country. And I've had tenants in properties over 17 years. And I look at what their income is, I look at what my costs are, and I try to keep it around the 2 to 3% increases every year, which is the cost of inflation. We need to look at something like that. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. We
And this
appreciate
is
it.
my first time speaking in front of the city council, and it's my first time back in the city of Escondido with a 17-year absence, and I love the improvements.
You
in the
are
city.
welcome to our city. Thank you. Okay, we move on to our consent calendar. I would like to pull item 6, and I need a motion to approve 4 and 5, Mr. Gallo. Okay. I need to approve item 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So John. Okay. All right. We are down to 1 and 2. I need a motion to approve item 1 and 2. I have a motion by Councilmember Diaz. I have a second by Councilmember Morasco. Please vote.
You pulled the minutes?
Okay.
5 yes votes.
All right. Good. We go on to item 3, approval of minutes. Deputy Mayor Masson.
Yeah. Thank you.
1 second. Oh, okay. I got to do my job here.
Yeah, I believe I stepped out of this closed session and it wasn't reflected that I removed myself from the closed session in the minutes. So we just need to adjust that.
That's absolutely right. You were out.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I need a motion to approve with the corrections. I need a motion in a second first.
Pressing my button, but it's not working.
Okay. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Gallo. I have a second by Councilmember Diaz. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Can we do the vote now? Okay, well, let's do the vote since it's there.
5 yes votes.
Okay, we got it done. Item 4, Treasurer's Investment Report for the quarter ended March 31st, 2017. Councilmember Gallo.
As you all know, I used to call previous treasurer up to the microphone all the time on these reports. We have a new treasurer now, and Doug hasn't come up to the podium to see if he has any questions to be answered. And I just want to make a comment that you're the new guy now, but since you've been here, our yield is going up.
It's because of the economy.
That is a good trend. Thank you for being here. This is the best yield we've had in over a year.
Well, I look to increase it some more. You'll see I'll be back here in June.
Now, take credit for it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. I like the format. I like the information. I like the pie chart. I think it's more transparent and more understandable to an average residents here. So thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. We need to approve that item. I have a motion by Councilmember Gallo. I have a second by Deputy Mayor Masson. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Okay, excellent. Item 5, financial report for quarter ended March 31st, 2017, and budget adjustment. Councilmember Gallo.
I probably could have asked these questions earlier, but
You see what you did now?
I didn't get a chance.
Half of our staff now are in front now. Okay.
I just have some questions.
Okay.
Need a couple of quick answers. The first bullet point is $36,000 for fire department operating budget for replacing alerting systems at Station 3. And the comment is the equipment is old. Isn't Station 3 like 5, 6 years old? I mean, that's one of our newer ones. And now the equipment is old? And it could fail?
From a different
Chief will explain that.
Well, you weren't here when it was built, but that's okay.
That's true. The alerting systems that we have in place, with the exception of 2 that we replaced within the last 12 or 18 months, were 7 to 8 years old, and they started failing. We replaced Station 1 and Station 4s, again, within the last year and a half. Station 3s began to fail, and we requested a budget adjustment to make that replacement.
Wow.
In next fiscal year's budget starting in July, we're going to replace the remaining 4. All the alerting systems will be up and running and in good shape.
Is it because of the call volume, or is it because it's just cheap equipment?
It actually is not inexpensive equipment, but it is 7 to 8 years old, and it needed upgrades.
Okay. Another question I had was for the police department. $39,305 to cover overtime costs associated with the Mobile Field Force Mutual Aid Response in El Cajon. Why doesn't El Cajon reimburse us for the cost then?
Mutual agreement.
Yeah.
Is if we had an instance such as the riots that they had after that shooting, is we would reciprocate.
Okay. I knew that was going to be your answer, or the chief's answer, okay? So my question is, do we tally, okay, it costs us $39,000 and change for El Cajon, and if they were to respond to us and it's only $20,000, do they still owe us $19,000? Okay,
No,
I mean,
yeah.
I know it's a facetious question,
Yeah.
but, you know, these are the kind of things that turn my screw, okay?
Yeah.
So, anyway, well, thank you, Captain Skaya. Okay, general fund projects, $429,000 for the gates at the Public Works Yard. Now, we're in the process of finding a new location for the Public Works Yard, but we're still going to spend $50,000 to make improvements to the security gates. Why would we spend that kind of money? I don't know.
Okay. Ed? Yeah.
You know, for Ed Deming, Public Works Director, City of Escondido, and this is the first time I've got to work this little thing up here, so it's kind of cool. What we're trying to do is upgrade some of the security at the yard there. We have some vehicle gates as well as personnel gates, and all the equipment that we would install there would be relocatable if we came up with a new Public Works yard. So I think it would be very timely for us to, if we could get these improvements done, and we really appreciate Julie Procopio and engineering getting some funds for us on that.
That was a follow-up. Would they be reusable?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
So just a follow-up with Councilmember Gallo. So this improvement was based on the expectation that we might move our public works yard.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is good. Good assurance, because $429,000 is a lot of money. So that's
well,
good.
I don't think the public works yard gets.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Looked at the
I'll take it
figure.
if you'll give
Yes,
it to me.
Yes, yes, that's right. So,
You gave Julie a heart attack.
okay, I looked at the total number. Okay, thank you, Ed. All
Yes,
right.
sir. My last one is probably for Joan. On the general fund expenditures, it was up 3.8%, and the reason being, the significant reason is increases in salaries, CalPERS, workers' comp, utility costs, and building maintenance, internal service charges. So, I mean, it's not a criticism, it's just maybe a suggestion of maybe fine-tuning the forecasting models that you use, because if you're almost 4% off.
I think we're comparing prior year to current year, and we actually budgeted that increase. So this wasn't based on, this comparison was between this current year to prior year. Does that make sense? Not to budget. It wasn't, it wasn't a surprise.
Okay, I need a motion to approve item 5. I have a motion by Councilmember Diaz. I have a second by Deputy Mayor Masson. Please vote to approve it.
5 yes votes.
Excellent. Item 6, employment agreement to the city manager and city attorney. I pulled this item because we want to be transparent with the public. We want to make sure the public understands the council action. After City Manager Graham Mitchell left, the council decided that we need to take our time and hire the best. And guess what? We received over 100 applications, and we looked at the top 5, and we appointed Mike and Jeff, Mr. App, and Mr. McGinnis to the interim position of the city attorney and city managers respectively. And I believe it was a unanimous council decision that they have exceeded our expectation, and the council, in our opinion, after we vote on this agreement, we hired the best to lead our city. We are very proud of our decision. I think those leaders are going to take our city to the next level of government and to provide better service to the public, and we are very proud of that. I pulled this item to make sure that the public understands that we do have both employment agreement with the city manager and city attorney. It's a public record. It's included in that city council documents, and it can be seen online. But however, we have to make sure that you understand what we did. The only difference between these two contracts and the past contracts is for the city managers, we have increased the salary to $286,000. That's the equivalent of the city of Carlsbad city manager. We have also, either party can terminate the contract with 90 days instead of 45 days. We have removed a $10,000 moving allowance from the contract, and also we have removed the severance agreement. On the city's attorney side, we reduced the salary from $254,604 to $230,000, and also we do have a severance of 1 year if we terminate the city attorney for convenience. On Exhibit A, page 7 of 7, it basically reflects that most of the benefits are very close to the benefits we provide to our management team. We have the auto allowance of $750 a month. We have the contribution to the city 401k program, the life insurance as well, long-term disability, the same as management, and also the workers' compensation. We have given that per state law. The health and dental care, vacation, and sick leaves are similar to the management team. So we do have the agreement in hand, and you know what happened in the past with the city manager, city attorney. They have accumulated. They were healthy leaders, and they didn't take. They accumulated a lot of money, and we have given those under a contract that benefit the city and benefited also Mr. Phillips and Mr. App, and we are done. We paid off all this amount. And now in this contract, I believe it does address it in a way, but I just want to make sure that we don't get into this. I don't think it's the case with Mr. Epp, but with Mr. McGinnis. I want to make sure that we have addressed that problem and we don't allow accumulations for years and years and years and then end up with the one lump sum. So, Mike, can you just help us out with your agreement that this is practically is not going to be the case, but I just want to make sure to say that we solve that accumulation problem. The city will not end up with a massive amount of money to pay.
You have resolved that problem. Right now, on these contracts, we are only able to accumulate the certain amount of vacation time, which would be the same as all management staff. And so our ability to cash in that vacation time is the same as staff, except for we have it limited to 15 days in a certain period of time each year. That's the maximum amount that you're allowed to do. Well, we do accumulate sick leave like all other city employees. We can't cash that out. That doesn't have a cash value, same as other city employees. So that's really the only difference.
Thank you for the clarification. Also, in the last time we did have a contract with the city manager and city attorney, we removed also any additional benefits. We cleaned up that contract, and I think this is pretty much similar to the contract we have established 3 years ago, and now it's over. So we're looking to make sure we do pay competitive wages and benefit, but at the same time, we have a good contract that serves both the city and the general public. Okay, Councilmember Diaz.
I read these contracts and compared them to each other, and the two have differences that were intentional and negotiated with each of these two employees. But the area where I drew my attention, I think, is a typo. There's a little typo on page 2 of the city attorney's contract, city manager's contract, where it lists the salary of $286,000 as a monthly salary. So I'd like the contract to be updated so that says annually. And I just saved the city over $3 million. Just so I just wanted to point that out. But other than that, both of these gentlemen have worked here a long time. They know the city well. They add the stability that is welcomed under the current circumstances, and I look forward to continuing to work with them. I think they make a good team, and this is the price of getting really good talent to run your city. So hopefully we're able to navigate financial issues that we have coming up well, and growth issues that we have. So this team, I think, offers us the talent and the stability to be able to move forward.
Thank you for your comments. Good comments. Councilmember Morasco.
Actually, my question was the one that you already brought up. I just wanted to verify that the action that we took in 2013 held true and precluded that accumulation. You answered that, so I appreciate that. And Olga mentioned the fact that they're a good team. Jeff and Mike sounds like an AM, radio team more than the city manager and city attorney. But again, I think we're all very excited. We're all in unity in our support of these two gentlemen, and we're very excited to have them with us for a very, very, very long time.
And I just want to make sure the public probably remembers the stories of the Union Tribune that our city manager and city attorney were the highest paid in the state of California. This is a lie. This is fake news at its best. We have paid them over 3 years period what we owe them in vacation and sick leave and whatever is accumulated. And the stories after stories were told that they are the highest paid in California. That's simply not true, and we're going to keep everybody accountable. We just want to make sure for the record, no, they are not. They are competitive salaries, but you don't count one-time payment as a part of the salary. So we appreciate, one last comment. I think these two gentlemen, Mr. Epp and Mr. McGinnis, we decided that their long tenure and also there. Jeff has been with the city living in the city for almost 30 years, and so Mike has been here for 10 years. So their community relations and their involvement with the community, it's a great asset and a great benefit to the general public. So we're looking forward as a mayor and as a city council to work with both of them to make sure we face the challenges from the state, the pension, other issues, and move forward. And I think the general public deserves the best, and I believe the city council picked the best leaders for the city. So thank you both and congratulations. We need to vote still. Okay. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Masson, and I have a second by Councilmember Gallo to approve Resolution 2017-70. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Excellent. Okay, we move on to our public hearings. Item 7, amendment to Article 67, density bonus and residential incentives of the Escondido zoning code.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, and good evening, City Council. State density bonus law allows a property owner to increase density in the number of new residential units on their property above the maximum allowable limit under local zoning law. In exchange for these additional units, a certain number of new homes must be reserved for lower income households. The City of Escondido already has a density bonus ordinance in place, also known as the Zoning Code Article 67. Because of some significant and recent changes in state density bonus law, it requires the City of Escondido to make amendments. The proposed changes in Ordinance 2017-05 are the smallest amount required, but still adequate and acceptable, so those represent the bare minimum. It is important that a city does not enact local laws that conflict or preclude what state law has intended to authorize. For that reason, some of the necessary changes that are discussed in the agenda report include base density calculation revisions. Base density will be calculated based on the city's applicable zoning and general plan provisions. In determining the number of density bonus units to be granted, any fractional units that result from any calculations are rounded to the up next whole number. Regarding the number of units, updating the maximum number of dwelling units permitted by density bonus law, application requirements will result in submit of a density bonus report for any density bonus application. That is necessary to show how the city intends to achieve implementing state density bonus law. New findings are added to the ordinance, which explains in detail how the project complies with the requirements of state density bonus law. And long-term affordability, the proposed ordinance requires that any affordable rental unit resulting from a density bonus application is affordable for a minimum of 55 years, and previously that was 30 under the old ordinance. The Planning Commission convened on February 14th. No public speakers were at the hearing, and there was minimal discussion over the agenda item. No written comments were received as of this presentation. And the Planning Commission voted approval, 6-0. Staff and the Planning Commission both recommend that City Council receive the staff report, conduct public hearing, and introduce the ordinance 2017-05 for the reasons stated in the agenda report. That concludes my presentation, and available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions at this time? This is a public hearing. I open the public hearing. I don't have any requests to speak. Would anyone like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. Back to council member discussion and action. Council member Gallo first.
I guess the most common question will be, how does this affect Proposition S, since we're increasing density?
Density bonus applications are not considered in terms of the general plan land use designation, so it allows preemption under the state code to go above and beyond general plan land use designations in terms of the resulting density yield. So there is no impact by Proposition S, and Proposition S can't be used to limit density bonus applications.
So another term for this would be inclusionary zoning. Would that be appropriate?
Inclusionary zoning is a method of which an agency can set aside a certain percentage of new development, regardless of any density bonus or incentives for their specific provision of affordable housing. So density bonus does achieve affordable housing production, but it's through a different method or a different tool.
But we have all these nonprofits, Community Housing Works and a couple other ones. That's what they do. They do low-income housing. So I don't understand the reason why we have to have this added on top of it, because if the state really wanted to have affordable housing, they'd cut out half the regulations that they've burdened everybody with. But that's a fight that we're probably never going to win. So I just question.
It's to entice regular developers to add affordable housing stock to the project. That's what it's for.
That's an inclusionary zoning, isn't it?
No, not really. It just gives them an option. They don't have to do it.
No.
But if they want to increase their yield above what they would typically get, if they restrict a certain amount of those units to affordability,
Right.
then they get more units for the market rate.
That's correct
It's a choice.
statement?
Correct.
We have fact checked on this, so it's okay. All right, Councilmember Morasco.
Okay, in reading this, the background where it talks about it allows property owners to increase the maximum allowed units under local zoning law. So does that also include single standalone additions to a property that would only allow a single residence to be added, as like similar to what we were talking about last meeting, where we had secondary housing built on lots?
So the inclusionary housing, density bonus law, and accessory dwelling unit law are all complete, separate, discrete provisions under state law and through local ordinance enforcement. The eligibility for triggering a density bonus application is it has to be a minimum of 5 units.
Minimum of 5 units.
Minimum of 5 units, with the exception of one of the specific plan areas, which is 3, which was already codified, so that's an existing regulation. So that's completely separate from accessory dwelling unit legislation.
Okay, so let's say it's a 3-unit complex. There is nothing that we can do or should do on our end, correct, that would mandate whether or not a percentage or a portion of those 3 units is designated for ultra-low income or low-income housing?
Under the proposed modifications and stipulated through a sliding scale under density bonus law, it actually does stipulate what percentage of those units need to be reserved for different income categories, which includes...
How does that work?
It's not forced, it's optional. So
it's optional.
It would be
Okay,
up to the
that was the
property owner. And as Councilmember Masson appropriately discussed earlier, that it is an optional, it is to encourage additional production of affordable housing. So it's the property owner's own volition and determination.
And if they determine not to do that, do they then fall into CEQA? Or they still don't have to go through the CEQA process?
All project activities that are discretionary are subject to CEQA, regardless of a density bonus application.
Okay, great, thanks. Of course it does.
Right. Okay.
Of course it does.
Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. Have we used density bonus even in its old form in our city? Has it been, I don't remember, so.
Yes, we have actually. I can recall one project probably 15, 20 years ago, the terraces on Morningview Terrace. That was a density bonus project that Silverwood did many years ago.
Nothing in my 9 years, right?
There have not been any in recently that I can recall.
Okay, so this makes it easier, or I understand we're bringing our code into alignment, but I don't know that it's going to be heavily used. There's no indication that it would be heavily used.
We do have knowledge of one application that's expected to come in fairly soon in the downtown area, so we do expect that it'll be used somewhat.
And then who monitors these? Because if they're the units that are produced through density bonus are expected to be affordable for 55 years, I think I read in here. Does the original builder have to do something, or do they hand it off to an agency for monitoring, or does the city have to monitor?
There is a provision in the ordinance at the point of transfer from the developer to an owner that the city is notified and accepts that transfer. There is a recorded encumbrance on the property stipulating the terms of the agreement, and then through the city's housing division, there will be ongoing monitoring just as there is with any other affordable housing project.
And do we get to count the units through density bonus as affordable units in our city for purposes of our RENA counts?
Absolutely.
Okay, because we're not even close to producing what we're expected to. So, okay, I just, again, since I haven't seen one all the way through, I was unfamiliar with what the city's required to do. So, okay, well, thank you very much. And by the way, you answer questions very clearly, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I just want to add to this. This is basically a request to comply with the current state density bonus laws. The goal is to encourage affordable housing, but I can tell you we have discussed RENA at the last SANDAG meeting. Pretty much all the cities have expressed that the creating affordable housing unit, it's almost have been eliminated because of the RDA. The redevelopment agencies have been taken out. Pretty much it was the major source of funding for affordable and subsidized low-income housing. So we discussed RENA at the Regional Planning Committee last Friday, and basically the cities are just doing very, very fraction of the affordable housing because of the RDA. Now the state is looking at this, and hopefully they will come up with some form of incentives to continue to build more affordable housing. 525,000, that's the median income, and the affordability index is down to probably 10 or 15%. That's really the gentleman at the oral communications, he's right, you know, that's really increasing the rent and affordability to live, not to own a house, because nobody is building new homes. So it is a problem. It's a housing crisis. Hopefully, the state will help us on giving us some incentives of a form of RDA to use it for affordable housing. Anyway, we need to approve this item 7. So I have a motion by Councilmember Morasco. I have a second by Councilmember Diaz. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, amendment to Article 66, sign ordinance of the Escondido zoning code. Staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. My name is Bill Martin. I'm the Director of Community Development. So this item is an amendment to Article 66, the sign ordinance. It's a request to modify the sign standards for primary and secondary schools, which essentially are kindergarten through 12th grade in our residential zones. Mike, can you help me with the slides, please? So a little bit of background. Traditional public schools are exempt from city zoning regulations, including our sign standards. Our sign regulations for charter schools and private schools in residential zones are certainly more restrictive than what the state has allowed at some of our traditional public schools in the same zones. You can see that at all of our high schools, as well as some of our elementary schools where they have pole signs with digital reader message boards. Very convenient for certainly parents and the children that attend those schools as far as getting out messaging. So this proposed amendment would essentially create some sign parity by allowing digital messaging and increased sign sizes for our charter schools and private schools in residential zones. So a little bit of sign ordinance comparison here. On the far left column, you see the type of sign, whether it's a wall sign or a freestanding sign. The middle column tells you what our existing sign ordinance limitations are. And then in the far right column shows what this proposed code amendment would do with the changes highlighted in blue. So with respect to wall signs, right now our current sign allowance for schools is 20 square feet maximum. So this would increase that to 40 square feet maximum. And then with respect to freestanding signs, they're allowed up to 6 feet high and 24 square feet currently. So this would increase that height up to 15 feet with a staff design review process. and then also increase it up to 60 square feet. And that 15-foot height, by the way, was taken based on a survey of some of our public schools, as well as a survey of the other jurisdictions within the county and what their sign standards are for schools. So the Planning Commission considered this proposed amendment on April 11th. There were no public speakers at that hearing, and we have not received any written comments from the public on this issue. So with a minimal amount of discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this proposal. So both staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval of the proposed amendment to Article 66 of the Escondido Zoning Code, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. I don't have any requests to speak, so I'll open and close the public hearing. Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. It always helps me to see a picture, and so when you're talking about square feet, I understand that, but to look at a photo or an example would have been helpful, just for future reference. Have we had a school get stuck in this process? I'm curious how this gets through Planning Commission into our agenda if there's not an applicant who's driving it. So what caused this?
We did get a request from a sign contractor saying that he was working for one of the private high schools and that they wanted the opportunity to do digital messaging. And so when we went back into our code and recognized that that wasn't something that could be taken care of, under the former city manager, we decided to bring this forward.
Okay, so we haven't actually held anything up. This is just an identified problem that if we fix it, we would have new signs
Correct.
proposed. Okay. And then the other thing, I understand that in a school sign, and certainly all the schools should have the same ability to have signs, but I was concerned that in the language of the staff report, it very clearly compares or classifies a charter school much more in line with a private school. And that's simply not the case. Charter schools are public schools, and so whatever rules we have enforced or applied to public school signage should extend by law to charter schools. So I'm not sure why we ever treated them differently. But why is so if it's a public school standard and charter schools are truly public schools, and this is an argument we have about school systems in general, but if a charter school is a public school, then why would it have different rules than a public school?
And that's an excellent question, and I won't profess to understand all of the legalities, but I know that with the charter schools, we do subject them to our local zoning. For instance, Classical Academy High School, they had to go through our conditional use permit process. So although they are technically a public school, they're not subject, they are subject to local zoning regulations where the traditional public schools are not.
I would, if I were them or any of the representatives from those schools, I would have argued that because, again, they're classified technically as a legal public school entity. Private school, different matter, but in order to be fair to educational institutions, I can see where this brings us into alignment. It's kind of a silly thing to have a problem with, and it's an easy fix, and I'm going to support it. But it struck me as odd to read over and over private schools and charter schools, to bring them into alignment with public schools, and specifically the charter one bothered me to the point that I reached out to a director of a charter school and I said, okay, you tell me, because all these years I've heard it, are you technically a public school? And he confirmed. So that's why I thought, who have we made struggle over this issue? So apparently nobody yet, and certainly nobody in our future. In terms of the not impacting neighborhood character, though, to change this code and go through a process, the neighbors have to be alerted that a sign is going to be installed?
No, not in this case. It would be a permitted use, so there would be no notification. It would just go through the staff design review process to make sure that the design of it was compatible with the rest of the school.
Okay. So the other schools, all the other schools, I'm trying to think of any school that has something fancier than a pole with a sign with the running board on it. I can't imagine that. But if somebody suddenly thinks of a different kind of sign, the stopgap for that is with the city staff.
Correct.
Okay. So I would hope that nobody decides they're going to put one of those, what do we call them? They're not advertising screens. What the Lexus has and the that if it's going to generate that much light, that it has the standard of having to be turned off at night, and So I'm just curious how far they'll take it before.
And we could certainly look at placement of it as part of our design review process. For instance, if they were putting it right up against an adjoining house, we might want to look at moving that or shifting that as part of our review.
Okay. So I would hope that review process would be thorough enough to prevent some private school with a lot of money from suddenly having the sign that, no other public school could afford. So, and that, lights up the neighborhood for 24 hours a day, that we would have at some point staff that would say, yeah, that's probably not what we had in mind. So.
Yeah, we'll always have a oversight over any signs in our city, but I had the same question. Why did we exclude the charter school, although they are officially public schools? So, while there was a problem, we fixed it. So that's excellent. So I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Masson. I have a second by Council Member Gallo.
I had one more question.
Okay, sure.
In our staff report, it also says that these schools have to be accredited in order to be eligible to be considered for this new change. So will we be verifying accreditation?
We will, and we can do it right off of that website for that organization.
Okay.
It's pretty easy to do.
That's part of the plan check or the design and approval process is validating accreditation.
That'd be a legit
Correct.
school.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, please vote. I have a motion and a second.
Since we're talking about schools, I forgot to mention.
Mr. Masson, let's finish voting.
We have a couple students from Escondido High School.
Okay. Yes, welcome to our city council meeting. Please vote, Mr. Okay. All right? No, he had to leave.
Until he pushes his button.
Okay, so put no, absent. No, it's not abstain.
4 yes votes, Marasco absent.
Absent. There we go. We corrected it. Thank you. Alrighty, move on to our workshop. 5-year capital improvement program and fiscal year 2017-18 CIP budget update. Staff report, please. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, as the staff is setting up, I wanted to take some time and thank our finance staff for the work that they've done in preparing this preliminary CIP budget. This is something that you'll see started back in February, and the department has worked with multiple staff and multiple departments throughout the months to come up with this proposed plan. Whether it's paving streets or adding features to parks or adding books to libraries, this is something that the public really has the ability to see and experience. So staff looks at it very seriously in the effort to put this together. A couple of things that you'll notice in the information provided as a new item, we've added things that are directly related to the council action plan that you can see where we've checked those in the table, so you can see for easy reference how that relates to the action plan that you've seen a draft version of a couple of weeks ago. There's also several unfunded items that are on the council action plan listed in this draft budget, and to the extent that you can provide us direction for prioritizing those unfunded items, we would appreciate that, and we will use that information to assist us in our follow-up efforts to evaluate opportunities for alternative funding. So with that, I'll turn it over to Cheryl and her team to provide the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Today, the Finance staff will be presenting a draft 5-year capital improvement program fiscal years 2018 through 2022 and the CIP budget for years 17-18. The Finance team participating in the presentation include Michelle Collette, who is the primary staff person responsible for the CIP budget, Joan Ryan, Assistant Finance Director, and myself, Cheryl Bennett, the Director of Administrative Services. Additionally, we have department staff representatives to answer specific questions that you may have on projects. Tonight's presentation will include an overview of the Capital Improvement Program. We will provide you an overview of the pavement maintenance and rehabilitation project. Staff will be available to answer questions you may have about the specific projects that were submitted and included in detail in this report. We will then ask you to provide us feedback and direction. So Michelle will now begin the overview of the CIP budget to this point.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. I wanted to start with a quick overview of the CIP budget process. The process gets underway in February when Finance starts analyzing fund balances and revenue projections. and prepares a schedule of available balances for staff to use as they prioritize their project requests. Department project requests are submitted to Finance by the end of March, where I then compile and review the projects. They are then submitted for management review and summarized into the staff report you received today for council review. This preliminary information is preliminary information, so today we are asking for any feedback or questions related to the information at hand. We will then come back to you in June for the final review and adoption of the CIP budget. While this process occurs annually, not all the funding that is approved is spent within the same budget year. As you know, projects can run over several years and often require new funding in future years to complete. So I'd like to show you this slide, which gives you an overview of the amounts that we currently have budgeted for projects that are ongoing throughout the city. We have about $382,000 in community service projects, which are mostly CDBG funded projects. We have about $219,000 in economic development projects, which include the facade improvement program and the economic incentive fund. We have about $1.1 million in general city capital projects, which include a lot of the technology enhancement projects throughout the city, planning projects, and the ADA project. We have about $954,000 in library projects, which include library technology upgrades, books, and library expansion project. We have about $3.8 million in park and recreation projects, which include new restrooms at Grape Day Park, park lighting projects, and improvements at the pools and recreation buildings. We have about $458,000 in public art projects, which include rehabilitation of the Nikki Day St. Folly art and funding set aside towards potential future projects. There's about $3.9 million in public safety projects, which include a majority of the public safety grants for operations and equipment and the computer-aided dispatch project. There's about $1.6 million in public works projects, which include facility improvements, the public works yard relocation, funding set aside for graffiti removal. And there is about $42 million in street construction and maintenance projects, $35 million in wastewater construction and maintenance projects, and $43 million in water construction and maintenance projects. Combined, these make up our current $131 million program. The Capital Improvement Program and Budget is a 5-year planning tool. It's developed and it's updated annually. It consists of specific funding sources that are restricted by certain guidelines and regulations, or sources that were committed by council for a specific purpose. An example of these specific funding sources that are used in the capital improvement budget would be the developer impact fees, such as public art, park development, traffic impact, storm drain, and public facility fees that come from new development within the city. The major street funding sources that we have come from Transnet allocations, which are funded by a half-cent sales tax, which is administered by SANDAG, and gas tax, which is currently generated by a 30 cents per gallon excise tax on gasoline administered by the state. You may have already heard the state just approved the Senate Bill 1, which will increase our gas tax with a new account called the Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account. It's projected that this new tax will bring in $869,000 this upcoming fiscal year in new street funding and an additional $2.5 million in future years.
How much? How much SB1 provides?
It's like 800 in the first year.
$869,000 this upcoming year, because
Okay.
it'll be about
Thank you.
half year, and then 2.5 per year going forward. The water and wastewater projects are usually funded by their customer fees and in some instances reimbursements from neighboring areas that share some of our facilities, such as Vista Irrigation District in the city of San Diego. Utilities is also currently in the process of applying for low-interest loans from the state revolving fund to fund a majority of their recycled water projects. As part of the finance and management project review, we look to see how these projects align with the city council action plan. You will notice in this schedule that was attached to your staff report, as Jay mentioned, this year we tried to highlight some of the projects that really relate to the items on the plan. This slide shows the projects that have funding and align with the council action plan. Under economic development, funding is continuing to be set aside for the Citricado Parkway project along with the public works yard relocation. and a majority of the projects relate to community improvement. Improvement through our parks and community centers, improvement through our streets, and improvement through our drainage systems. This is a graph that shows the total projects that were submitted for this upcoming fiscal year. There are a total of $78.5 million in project requests that have secured funding. About 67% or $53 million relate to wastewater projects. About 18% or $13.8 million relate to water projects. About 12% or $9.2 million relate to street projects, and the remaining 3% or $2.5 million relate to general type projects. This next slide shows the pavement maintenance and rehab project for the next 5 years. As mentioned earlier, the new gas tax funds, our MRA, allowed us to add to the street maintenance program and exceed the annual 4.7 amount that was needed to maintain our current PCI levels. With additional amounts programmed towards these efforts, a significant impact can be made with these projects to not just maintain but increase the city's PCI levels, a major community improvement.
Quick question, that was exclusive of SB1, or did that include it?
It's including it. It's the RMRA fund line. This is a graph that shows the total projected projects that were submitted for the future years, fiscal years 2019 through 2022. There's a total of $83.2 million in projected project requests for those next 4 years. About 58% or $48.6 million relate to street projects. About 22% or $18 million relate to water projects. About 13% or $10.5 million relate to wastewater projects, and the remaining 7% or $6 million relate to general type projects. As you may recall from previous years, sometimes there are CIP budget requests that do not have a designated funding source. We have used the general capital fund to cover projects like these. However, since the onset of the recession and going forward, additional monies have not been put into the general capital fund. We currently have $2.5 million in projects that still need funding. The ones with the red check next to them are the items that relate to the council action plan. Departments are in the process of evaluating options for funding, including possible grants. We will update you in June on the status of these proposed projects. With that, this concludes our presentation, and at this time we would like to open it up for any questions and get directions for when we bring this back to you in June.
Okay. Questions, Councilmember Gallo.
A bunch of them for discussion. I think I talked to you already about the street program. I was trying to cobble all the numbers together, and then finally, a couple pages hence, on page 4, there's the grand total. Okay, so that answered my question on that. I think that's a pretty fair amount. Central Colorado Parkway. When do we think that might get done?
5 years? The next 5 years?
We got a 5-year plan.
So recently we put together a status report more detailed of the project, and hopefully you had a chance to take a look at that. But we are working actively on the resource agency permits. We expect that it will take about a year to get through the process of getting an MOU with Native American tribes that's necessary to allow us to move forward with our project.
I thought we had already done that stuff, no?
We did environmental clearance, and we applied for permits. And we've been working with all 3 resource agencies involved. We were able to secure our stream bed alteration agreement, but we still have 2 additional permits that need to be secured. So we're pushing forward with that. At the same time, we're moving forward with the relocation of the transmission SDG&E facilities out there, the power facilities. And that process is a long process as well. They're under design, and they have to do their own separate environmental. So it's about an 18-month process. They have to go through PUC. So we're pushing that forward at the same time. I think the good news is with this new road maintenance and rehabilitation funding, in addition to our traffic impact fee funding that we project over the next 5 years, we have a really good solid plan that will allow us to fund that project and potentially borrow ahead against future Transnet revenues as soon as we are able to secure the permits and get the utility relocations, the utilities basically out of the way. So I'm estimating about about 2 years from now, we could be in a position to push the project forward into construction.
You know, and we were so foolish to think we're going to get this done maybe a year or two after the hospital opens. Because that was the whole impetus to do that. Let's see. I had a couple other questions. There's the total street fund, which is pretty cool. One of the items here was the East Valley Midway storm drain repairs or whatever. When did that become a problem? I mean, I used to work out at East Valley and Midway, and we never had flooding problems.
Yeah, Julie?
So as a matter of fact, Councilmember Gallo, this was something that you brought up and brought to my attention maybe about a year ago during a council meeting. We have properties that are located in the floodplain adjacent to Escondido Creek, and it's not because the creek is undersized, it's because the storm drain system that connects the neighborhood to the creek is undersized. And so we have properties that are potentially not being able to be developed and sold in their full to their fullest potential. They're having to pay flood insurance.
You're talking about north of Washington Avenue, though.
I'm talking about along the creek, between Valley and the creek, and along Midway.
That's the area where I went head-to-head with the FEMA director for the West Regional Division, or whatever the hell it was. And he said, the flood control is too far away. I said, it's 2 blocks. He said, it's too far. You need a new storm drain system. And when your city does that, in the meantime, people have to pay a flood insurance policy on their house, which costs more than the homeowner's policy. The house could burn down. It costs you less money than if you have some flood damage. Go figure that one out. Anyway, okay, thanks for the answer. You don't have to go any further. The recycled water thing, when do you think that's going to get done?
Okay. Help is on the way.
Oh, here we go. Chris decided to take the day off, huh?
Push down.
No, that's okay.
Angela Morrow, Deputy Directors of Utility Construction Engineering. So the recycled water lines, is that what you're referring to?
I think that's what it is, yeah. Recycled water, Easterly Main Phase 2 plus tank. And the RO and the PS, whatever that is.
So the recycled water mains, the design is complete. As mentioned earlier, we're applying for the state revolving fund for the loan, so that's a low-interest loan.
Yeah.
We did that a year and a half ago. It sounds like we're very close. We're in the legal stages with the actual contract language with the state. So we have all the permits to construct it. So it's the funding that's left.
Oh, okay. Next question I had was Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. It's unfunded, but when are we going to get done with all this ADA business?
So we have a comprehensive ongoing plan to address a variety of issues throughout the city to make us ADA compliant. And so there are many, many projects that are still on our comprehensive plan.
Oh, jeez, Anyway, okay. Do we have any projects identified right now?
Yes, they are working on several projects. And because we have currently as unfunded, what is the amount that we have? 70,000. We still have money available, and it's also dependent on when they can, the public works staff can work on some of these projects, but we do have several that are in active project status right now. But it will be something you'll be hearing about over the years. It's an ongoing project.
Now, Parks and Recreation, I see a thing here for ball field fence replacement. It's unfunded. Olga, you might help me out with this. My recollection is that Escondido National have replaced their fencing, okay? So they don't need fencing replacement, but everybody else does. Why? Because everybody else is relying on the city for their daddy to take care of them, whereas Escondido National took it upon themselves. We need things done. The city doesn't have the money, so we'll do it ourselves. So now, out of this, if this gets funded, since Escondido National doesn't need the fencing, will they get the proportionate share of the funding that becomes available?
Negotiating.
Okay, I mean, just throwing it out at you. I mean, you don't have the money yet, but you may end up with it.
I can add to that. Obviously, before we spend any money on fencing, we need to go look at the parks, because here you seem to believe that Mountain View needs fencing, and it simply doesn't anymore. It did maybe a couple of years ago. It just doesn't, right? So we wouldn't want to spend any money on fencing or even allocate any. The other thing, we haven't fully talked about parks, and I was going to talk about the Washington Park investments, but...
Well, when it comes your turn,
Okay, you said you needed help, so I was helping you.
Just on the FEL action.
Okay, I will wait on that then.
The other thing for parks, what are we going to do with the tree stump at Grape Day Park? I mean, I thought it would be a great tree house thing or whatever. I mean, it's just sitting there. Huh? Is that part of the master plan?
You know, that's why we need to ask all these questions before the council meeting, all detailed questions, so we can speed up the process. But go ahead, Loretta.
They had other work to do.
I know. Okay.
Loretta McKinney, Director of Library and Community Services. Actually, we had planned to redesign the tree or carve the tree. We determined that it was going to cost between $25,000 to $75,000 to do so. And actually, after our wonderful Public Works Department cleaned it up, it looks quite lovely the way it is, and we figured that the money could be better spent on other things like shades,
Can the kids
structures.
use it? Can the kids use it, climb on it, and jump off it?
Actually, they do. There's a lot of little crevices in there. I don't know if you've been there recently, but there's a lot of little crevices, and we were actually thinking of putting some benches around it, because that's really what we need for the parents
Good idea.
while the kids are playing.
Okay.
Then my last one.
Okay.
This one just blew me away. It's not a big ticket item, okay? But the three newest fire stations that we built were 3, 6, and 7. None of them were built with rain gutters. I mean, I find that hard to believe that you would build something and not have rain gutters, and now we have to spend money to, it's not a big ticket item, okay? It's small. Compared to our overall budget, it's chump change. But it just frosted me that I thought, we built these things and nobody thought about the rain gutters because the water could damage the exterior? I mean,
Does it have anything to do with the new regulations or anything?
no, regular.
No, I think they were value engineered out of the project
Right.
as a cost-saving measure.
Okay.
The whole thing is $15,000.
Okay.
We didn't have $15,000 in the budget then?
Questions at this time? Councilmember Diaz.
Oh, geez.
Thank you, Mayor. So the slide that you have on there, I'll start with that. I know my coworkers up here don't necessarily support or value SB1, but if we don't have SB1, and if we use our Transnet to fund the Citrocado Parkway expansion, which is one of our highest priorities, we will have zero or very minimal money to do street maintenance. So I just want to make you aware of that. I think you are aware of that, but to point it out that if you intend to, or there's some plan to fight SB1, we'll probably need to stop the Citrocado Parkway expansion, because then we won't be able to achieve our pavement maintenance standard that we're trying to reach. So I just wanted to point that out, and this is a good slide. I was concerned because we did vote to be able to basically sweep or advance the Transnet funds to do Citrocado. We voted to allow staff to do that if needed, but we didn't have a plan for any other money for road maintenance. So if they do it and we have SB1, then we might at least continue at the rate that we're at now. Just wanted to point that out. I really like the new little stars and check marks and the new design of these reports, because it does bring us back to understanding why these things are on the list. I want to talk about park development for a second. Aquatic facility improvements, I think we have approved already some expenses to redo some of these pools. Is this money different than that? I feel like we just recently approved money for that. About for the pump and the lining and...
Yes, so
Okay.
Gemstone Pool, we are in the process right now of rehabbing the pool And the focus of that is the mechanical building, which was pretty much falling over, replacing the 30-year-old filters, and resurfacing the pool, and also repairing leaks in the pool structure. This project, the Aquatics Facility Improvement and Project, is intended at first to focus on Washington Park. There is a need to add additional fixtures to better serve the public showers and in the showers and lockers. And so the plan is, we think that the building itself is a good structure. We would just be changing the facilities to better meet future demands there. Right now there's a single shower and everybody stands around the single shower head, and that's not the way that most shower and locker facilities are in public pools nowadays.
Okay, so it's not more money for the pools themselves, it's for the ancillary buildings?
Yes.
Okay, because it's still a lot of money. Play equipment, shade structures, those are really important because the slides and all the equipment gets really hot, especially in the summer. Washington Park parking lot expansion, I think, is a great idea because it seems like there's not enough parking there, but I wonder what land we're going to expand parking onto. It said street parking, but I can't picture where we were going to do that.
So as you enter the parking lot from Rose, as you're entering the parking lot, you turn to the left to get to the main parking area. This new parking area would be turning to the right, and there will be area along the street there, extending the pavement down that area to the north, where more parking could be added.
Okay, I have a suggestion. Earlier, Councilman Gallo was talking about Mountain View Park and fencing and such, and Escondido National has 2 ball fields at Mountain View, and they have a 3rd ball field assigned to them at Washington. And there's money in the unfunded fencing line item for new fencing for Washington Park. And that fencing is really absolutely horrid, but I think it should just be taken down. Escondido National is looking at a way to be able to add ball fields to their existing locations so they're not working at multiple parks. And it seems to me the existing ball field that National doesn't really want to use anymore, if you could extend parking out that direction, it's already flat. And so National is willing to vacate use of that space because, to be honest, it's really challenging to run a league when you have multiple parks that you have to run games at and umpire at and snack bar and parent drop off and pick up. So the goal is to consolidate all games into one park, like Jesmond Dean does. Right now we play at Washington as little as we have to because the facilities are so bad. So what I'm getting at is don't invest money in ball field facilities because it would be better to invest that money to support the league consolidation or that team. The other park we play at, it's not a park, it's Hidden Valley Middle School, and the quality is not so great there. So I think that their goal is to consolidate. But it seems like an easier solution to expand parking sort of deeper into that area if you no longer need the ball field.
So just to clarify, are you suggesting removing that ball field entirely and replacing with parking?
National doesn't want that ball field anymore, so then the city can decide to do whatever. I'm just saying that rather than trying to fork parking out to the right side, where I think is where we wanted to put the skate spot, which is also on this list, now we're talking about putting parking there.
Let's
the skate park would be put right near where that parking is.
There's like a basketball court, right?
Correct.
It just opens up a lot more possibilities, whether it's a BMX or a parking lot or whatever other recreational ideas you want to have, because the condition of the park needs to be improved in general, and it doesn't need to stay the same.
I'd rather give it back to staff to look into that and see how it fits in our priority rather than, I don't know what other priorities are. So Loretta, you have some information on this?
I do. Actually, that field, because we really need more fields in our parks.
So what other leagues are using it?
Actually, just the little leagues, because they're practicing and...
Thank you very much. I wanted over $1 million over the next 3 years. I thought we applied for a grant. Did we not get that grant? It was an idea where when we did. So I really like that idea. So if we're going to invest in those parks, if the National Little League, calculate things and figure out what else you can add and what we can fund, tells about, how we can stretch a dollar so we can do more good things. So thank you for your work.
For 6. No?
I don't know the exact dollar value of the program this year. The overall budget for the program.
Yeah, thank you, staff. It's a great presentation. I really like this.
Great. You said if we don't have it, we get 0 for street maintenance.
Because we're going to take that other money and spend it on Citricado Parkway.
Right, not all of it.
If we do that,
yes.
if
Right.
we do all of those things.
Correct. So you're right. I mean, if you add the street maintenance is extremely important. We're making progress. I think we're focusing on that, and I think the council made the right decision to focus and put, and was delayed and environmental issues, and the N15 is a bottleneck right now. And if we don't do anything the next few years, it's going to be many projects, and we have started some, and we have a 5 years plan for each thing. So we cannot. Yes.
Hello. Yeah. We have to build a new dam at Lake.
We'll apply for other funding. It is not eligible for SRF money, so we're looking at other type. One was a joint letter from U.S. and California Fish and Wildlife, and it was a fairly extensive review.
So in the meantime, we're still safe because the dam can hold itself until.
We're restricted at a lower level, so it is safe. It's at a lower level than its full.
Hey, with that, I will move on to future agenda item. Okay. Councilmember Diaz?
I think I'm not on yet there. So I have neglected to request this, and I just forget. The North County stand down that took place last January in Vista, it was really a partnership of a lot of nonprofits and cities and agencies in the North County. They would like to come give us a brief presentation on their event and their success, and to thank us for partnering with them. So I'm requesting that at a future agenda, when time permits, they be allowed to give a short presentation.
Yeah, we'll give them 5 minutes.
Can all do it at the same time, right, Mike? Yes, you can. And Mike will have to be there because he has to make sure we don't talk any business.
RENA. RENA is the Regional Housing Needs Assessment and the housing element cycle, the goal indicated before. So it's a problem. Housing is going to continue to be a problem. Another 3 minutes. There we go.
Regulations prohibit solar panels on mobile homes. That has to do with the weight, the electrical, and this and that, whose property you're on. Regulations prohibiting solar panels on ideas. And they said there is no problem hooking up a solar, encouraging and helping your seniors in the thousands. Thank you again, and good night.
Thank you, Wayne. As you know, we cannot discuss this item because it's every one of them, and you are welcome. No. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.